When I came up with the idea, it was back in 2019. Um, my first thing was to just build a website just to see if there's a demand. I wanted to see if there's a demand for these scooter rentals. I didn't go out to buy any equipment. I didn't do anything like that. So that's pretty much how I started, just to build out a really nice website, just to see if I'm getting customers, if people are going to call, if people are going to make any requests before I actually go out and buy anything or commit to the business.
Okay, so you put this thing up, you send it out into the abyss of the internet. Does anything start to come back, or at what point do you start to get inquiries for them?
I started getting requests pretty quickly within a few months, maybe within 6 months. People started calling. I started getting emails for requests. And I think that I just didn't have that much competition.
Yeah.
And I think I built a pretty good website. So I
Okay.
looked at my competitors and I just tried to do it better. And I think I just ranked. I ranked pretty quickly. And yeah, it started taking off fairly fast.
Did you do anything specifically on the SEO front to build backlinks, to build the Google business profile, to do anything other than just having like the exact, what somebody might be searching for in the URL and then in the content on the site itself?
Well, first of all, the name, LA Mobility
Sure.
Scooter Rental. So I tried to get a domain that's gonna, match, I guess, search pretty good. I didn't really do anything special. I don't know much about SEO. I just built a website. I did as much, back end SEO as I could. Whatever they asked me to fill out, I filled it all in. Mobility scooter rentals, mobility scooters, all that kind of stuff. Put some good pictures. Put up as much info as I could. I'm pretty sure I opened up a Google My Business page right away, and I may have did the Yelp as well at the same time. But that's pretty much it. That's everything. That's all I did from the beginning. I may have gotten into, to be honest, into some Fiverr gigs. I'm going to be honest here. I think I tried to maybe get some backlinks from there.
Okay.
I don't know if it works. I hear mostly bad things about it, and I don't know if it made things better or worse. But I probably did a little bit of that, and that's pretty much it. Yeah,
What'd you build the site in?
GoDaddy. So it was GoDaddy website builder, and they had that SEO optimization thing. So I just kind of followed that,
Okay.
and for me, it was very easy to use, like super intuitive.
Okay. So I like this idea of, well, I'm going to put it out there, see what kind of reaction it gets, and then kind of crickets for a few months. Like I'm going to follow all the best practices, and totally with you on the Fiverr backlink. Like definitely tread carefully over there because you wouldn't
Right,
want a
right.
bunch of people pointing low quality or spam links back to your site, even if they promised me 1,000 backlinks for $5. Like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But it didn't seem necessarily to hurt you in this case. But so a few months go by, and you start to get phone calls, like people are filling out the contact form. It's primarily for like travelers and tourists coming to LA and say, "Hi, I need this while I'm in town for the week." That's kind of the target customer base.
So I would say, yeah, I would say it's mostly travelers, tourists that come in and they want to get a scooter for whatever they're doing. Because most of my rentals are two hotels. Um, so yeah, it's mostly I would say, yeah, that would be the majority of people that are just traveling, coming in. Maybe they're a little older, they're sightseeing, stuff like that. But there's also a lot of other customers, a lot of like industry people. There's movie productions, they rent scooters. What else is there? There's just all sorts of things. I think honestly, a
That's
lot of
interesting.
different.
So the hotels will have a guest coming in, and then the guest will request the thing, and they're like, "Well, we don't have that. Let's see if anybody nearby would rent us one," and then they reach out to you.
Yeah, usually the guest would reach out to me beforehand. They would book it.
Okay.
And they're like, "We're coming into the hotel on so and so date. We'd like a scooter."
Okay, gotcha. So
Or
it's not
yeah,
the hotel isn't necessarily the customer. That's kind of where you're delivering it to.
exactly.
Okay.
I'm just delivering it to the hotel. Sometimes they probably ask the hotel to call because sometimes hotels do call,
Okay.
but usually it's for a customer. But otherwise, the person calls themselves and books it.
Gotcha. And there were a few other people doing this when he started in 2019 building out the site. So there was some level of demand validation already out there. Some other people are doing this as a business. But I mean, what a random niche. I think it's a great
Yeah.
example of just the things like, okay, it's kind of a high ticket item. It's really big and bulky to try and travel with. So it checks a lot of boxes from that standpoint, but just did you have a family member who needed one? Like, just I'm curious
Yeah.
what your research process was
Actually,
like.
yeah, I'd love to tell the story actually. Well, the way I came across this this business, in 2019, me and a friend of mine, he was getting into another equipment rental business. And I think he was just starting out, and he's like, "Hey, let's try to find some other stuff, some other equipment that we can, do another business, maybe another business." And I'm a very big researcher. I love finding new things and like seeing what's out there. And I came up with a big list, and one of them was mobility scooters. I thought, wow, this is cool. Probably not very common. Not a lot of people think about it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe there's not much competition. And it was, I put it on the list. I thought you could get pretty good rental rate out of it. It wasn't like very, a low money there, like pretty good money. Not difficult to manage. They're not huge. They're not tiny. They're not very expensive. So the investment is fairly low. So I thought it was a great idea, something to definitely look into. And we kind of discussed it. And then actually before this, I think why maybe it came to my mind. My girlfriend's mom actually came into town, and this was probably even a couple of years before I came up with the idea.
Yeah.
And she rented a scooter,
Oh, okay.
but at that time, I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
But I think when I was thinking of ideas, I remembered, hey, she rented a scooter when she came into town. We were going places. I was putting it in the back of the car for them, and maybe that's why I thought of it all. So that's how I came up with the idea. And me and my friend were just like talking about it, and I'm like, let me just start a website. I think it's a pretty good idea. I knew exactly how I was going to do it. It was just very simple for me. It was very obvious. There weren't a lot of variables there. I'm like, I can build this website in like an hour. Very easy to understand the scope and the business, and I just went ahead and built the website, and to try to see if there's demand.
Do you remember from that initial potential niche list any other products that you considered going into?
Construction equipment was a big one. For example, I think scissor lifts, I mean, maybe forklifts, right? Things like that, and maybe party equipment, tables and chairs, just specific niche stuff like that.
Yeah, friends rented a like a nacho cheese fountain for their wedding. It's like,
Yeah,
well, hey, this is a random one-off type of thing. But yeah, the party supply niche. We had a guy on the show years ago who was doing the inflatables like for kids' birthday parties and
right,
stuff. We had another guest, Steve Nadramia, who was doing portable hot tub rentals, like one of the most
right.
creative businesses that I came across. I thought that was really cool. There was a company, I think Baby Quip is called, like it was
Yep.
specifically in the baby strollers and pack and plays and other stuff that parents might need when they're traveling, maybe even car seats. I mean, there's probably some liability around that, but there's a few different niches, especially catering to travelers. Like, what's going to be a pain to bring with you that you might want to get at your destination? And even in
Right,
like the sporting niche, like if I want to rent a bike while I'm there, or I want to rent skis while I'm there, just kind of
right.
going. And then forklifts would be just thinking about the storage logistics on that. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like United Rentals is huge. And I remember having
Right.
to go and rent like this giant 40-foot ladder to get up to the third story of some house we were painting in college. And they put it on my truck with a forklift. And I'm like, that's cool, but how are we going to get it off when we get to the job site? And it's like this massive fiberglass thing. It weighed a ton. But yeah, lots of different niches there. And then going into the website building process, you have no scooter at this point, but now you're starting to get
Right.
people messaging you about renting it when they come into town.
Exactly. I was getting requests, and I was waiting until I felt comfortable, until there was enough demand for me to jump into the business. I'm like, I'll do it if there's good, consistent demand. Once I get there, once I get those kinds of requests,
Yeah.
I'll go out get some scooters and I'll start doing it.
Did you have a metric in mind? Well, if I get 5 requests a month, then I'm doing it, or something like that.
Probably more than that. Yeah, I definitely had something in mind where I would want to make decent money, and it would probably have to be several requests a day.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's where, yeah, an average. That's probably what I was looking for at the time, where it's worth it because I wanted it to be worth it for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Based on like the certain things that you mentioned earlier, like certain equipment, some of it is a low price, and I'm like, is it really worth it to go out there and deliver something for $30 a day type of thing?
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be where it was worth. The daily rate was good, and I was gonna get several consistent like rentals all the time.
And you would
So.
just tell these people, sorry, we're booked up, or we don't have availability right now.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very simple. You just say, "I'm sorry, we're booked on that date, or we don't service your area, or
Okay.
we don't have the equipment that you need," and that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
And
This is,
yeah,
I mean, you got my gears turning on, spinning
yeah,
up some pretty quick local websites around, any number of different niches just to see, okay, what is going to stick and what starts to get inquiries, and then going out and uh, start to fulfill those needs. So, a couple questions. Well, let's tackle the pricing question first. Is like, how do you figure out how much to charge for this thing?
Okay, so I looked at my competitors, and they have usually it's a daily rate, and then a weekly rate, and then a monthly rate. So that's typically how they do it. I just looked at what they were charging, and I think I listed those prices, and I kind of estimated that that's what I was going to charge, but it wasn't that much. I was like, man, it's not that enticing. So, long story short, I basically charge, I would say, the highest prices out of my competition.
Yeah, because I mean, you've got the brand. You are the LA Mobility Scooter Rentals.com guy.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'm going to command a premium price for that. What does that look like today in terms of the daily, weekly, monthly price?
Sure. So, daily, I typically estimate it's basically a $75 a day, and I always add a delivery pickup fee. So I only do delivery and pickup where I bring it to them and I go pick it up from them. They don't come to me or anything like that. I don't
Okay.
have a storefront. I just do it straight up out of my car, right? And it's $75 a day, and I charge at least $75 on top of that, no matter what. That's basically delivery, and that's when it's pretty close, pretty local, maybe within 5 miles,
Okay.
and then I'll bump it up to 150 for delivery and pickup if it's maybe like over 10 miles, somewhere around there. So, but I don't do 1 day rentals. I try to keep it like a 3 day minimum.
Yeah.
So it would be 3 days would be what, 225 plus $75 if it's a local delivery, and that's a 3 day rental. What is it, $300?
Yeah.
Usually I try to go into a week, which is 4 days to 7 days. 4 days to a week is basically the same price. It's 249 plus a delivery pickup fee. So it'll be 249 plus 75, or if it's a little farther for me, I'll bump it up to 150. And all that is, negotiable. You know what I mean? Like if I feel like it's a good customer, or it's very easy for me, or sometimes they ask for a discount, I can always work with them. But that's my base price, and
Yeah.
it's a 500 for the month
Oh, okay.
plus delivery pickup. Yeah,
Gotcha. Well, how
yeah.
much do these things cost? And so you finally say, okay, look, I've got a critical mass of demand asking me to rent these things. I'm finally going to go out and buy one. What do they cost?
Yeah. So a brand new scooter, the ones that I'm using, and I'm using Pride, so they're a really good brand, very good scooters. I would recommend them. A brand new one is about $1,500 right now, a little less, a little more. But I actually bought mine used, and I look for about $500. I go on Facebook Marketplace or any other local marketplace, and I'm looking to get it for about $500. So as you can, see, I pretty much get my money back within one, two, three rentals.
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, if it's 250 a week plus 75 delivery, like a couple weeks later, I'm in the black on this unit.
Yeah,
And
it's very fast.
how many do you have at this point?
Right now I only have seven.
You say
So
only. I mean, that's like that's a pretty
yeah,
serious
well,
fleet.
yeah, it's not bad. I have seven right now, and I make it work. I could definitely have a lot more, but I don't, I keep it as a side, completely a side business.
Yeah. They're
So
pretty bulky. So you have a storage unit or you keep them in the garage. It's got to take up like a decent chunk of space.
yeah, I actually have. Luckily, I live in an apartment building, and we actually have storage units that we can use. So in the parking area, I can rent out a storage unit, and they're like 5 by 5. So luckily, I have it right there. It's like right next to my parking spot, and I have two storage units, and I keep my scooters there, and
Okay.
I could shove five of them in one, and then I have a couple in the other.
And does it fit in the back of an SUV or how do you deliver them?
So we have an SUV. That's the car that we started with, and I can put two. I actually got three in there one time, but I don't recommend it. I don't. It's I have to disassemble the scooters and kind of like
Oh,
shove them in there. But two is fine. I could put two in the back, and then my other car, I just throw one in the trunk, and that's how I do it. I just put it in the trunk of my car, and I just deliver it that way.
yeah, that's the other consideration here. I remember our bounce house rental guest was, well, I started out with my Civic or my Accord. Basically, I had to get this
Right.
little trailer attachment thing because it was, a 400-pound inflatable, and it was, yeah, something to consider. And Steve, the hot tub guy, was like, yeah, just kind of stick it in the back of the truck, and that's, how he had to make it work. But a bigger vehicle would be required to deliver some of this bigger items. But that's really cool. Like this ROI pencils out a lot faster than a traditional rental house. Where it's like, yeah, I can break even on my entire purchase cost within just a couple rentals, and I'm off to the races. But walk me through a day in the life or a week in the life, if there is such a thing, trying to manage the inventory flow and the pickups and the drop offs. And I don't know, is there such a thing?
Well, I keep it very simple, to be honest. It's not that demanding. Some weeks are busier than others. I have more rentals, so a customer, they call or they email. They're like, "Hey, I need a scooter. I'm coming in on so and so. I'm gonna stay at this hotel," and I'm like, "Okay." Delivery date, delivery time, location. I have the scooter. Boom, they book it, and I have them sign a rental agreement. Just has a bunch of information like their responsibilities, mine, and a little bit of that like liability language, and they sign the rental agreement, and that's pretty much it. The time comes, I grab the scooter, throw it in my trunk, I drive it over it. Usually it's a hotel. I leave it with front desk. I'll put a little tag with the guest's name, with the customer's name on it,
Okay.
just in case. And I just drop it off with front desk. They always take it. They put it like where they put the luggage, and that's it. I just drop it there, and let's say a week later, and I tell the customer, I'm like, hey, just drop it off with them when you're done. And a week later, I go pick it up. So it's pretty simple. People call me, they email me. I uh, book the rental, I rental agreement, payment request,
And
and
the
then
rental agreement
delivery.
is like an online, checkbox or DocuSign or something.
It's a PDF. I send them a PDF that they could sign.
Okay.
So they just put their name, billing address, and a signature basically, and they send it back to me.
Okay. And how are you processing the payments?
I was doing it through PayPal, honestly, for a little while.
Yeah.
When I started, that was funny. My first rental, I'm like, I had to do it quickly, and I actually did my personal PayPal account. But I use Square now,
Okay.
so I just create an invoice and I send them a payment request, and I charge up front, and that's it.
Okay. So that's done kind of in advance of delivering the thing, like the
Yeah,
both the agreement and then the payment. I guess it's similar to, rental car. I'm going to reserve the rental car. And okay. Yeah.
yeah,
And
I charge them up front.
And what's cool about this, because we talked about people doing the Turo business too, is like, I got to go, somebody wants to rent my car, they're coming into the airport. So I go take the car to the airport, and now I got to take an Uber home because I gave them my car at the airport. It's like, no, I could still take my car home because I just dropped off the scooter instead. So that's a little bit more attractive to me, or like fewer moving parts in that sense. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, on the liability insurance side of things,
Mhm.
I guess, dealing with people with mobility issues, like if the scooter breaks down, I don't know how common that would be, but like,
Mhm.
is that a factor here?
So that was definitely my thought getting into this business. So that's I'm I guess a naturally anxious person, and that's exactly what I think about sometimes. So there are pros and cons with every business, every piece of equipment. I do think about, I worry about them giving me a call in the middle of the night. Hey, my scooter broke down or something's wrong. Come and fix it. Come and take care of it.
Yeah.
Um, but luckily, that's just mostly in in my mind. That doesn't usually happen. I mean, it's happened once or twice where the battery was kind of faulty and the scooter wasn't running that well, but I was able to take care of it. Nobody was upset. Nobody was stuck anywhere. They gave me a call. I brought them a new scooter. I swapped it out. But yeah, I mean, luckily, there's really not that much issue that goes on. These are really good scooters. There's not that much that can go wrong. Like I said, I definitely was thinking about these things. Like, hey, what if something goes wrong? Right? These people are out riding in the middle of who knows where.
Yeah, they're
They
going
might have
down
mobility.
Hollywood Boulevard, or they're going to to the Walk of
Yeah.
Fame or
What if
something.
it gets? What if it fails in the middle of the thing?
Yeah,
But luckily that they don't. A lot of times people they don't really necessarily go far. They go with family. They go in a car. They go with somebody else, and they go, maybe to. They don't necessarily, venture out on their own like really far or anything like that. So usually, I think it works out. There's really no haven't really had any issues like that. I have thought about the liability of the business, and there's always that question. These are maybe older people, right? They might have mobility issues, and you're renting them a mobility scooter. Um, but again, it's like you overthink it. There's mobility scooter rental companies that have existed forever, and they're doing just fine. And that's kind of how I look at it. All
yeah.
these businesses that you think, well, what about the liability? Because you always want to think about that, but there's a ton of companies that have been doing it forever. So, and they're okay.
I've always been surprised how inexpensive a general liability policy would be, or even, I don't know if it would be like a product liability policy in this case, but something like that. Is that something that you carry for the business?
I have, yeah, business insurance is general liability, but I don't have anything beyond that. I have like I said, a rental agreement. And again, I know that that doesn't necessarily mean much legally, but it lets the customer know that, this is serious. At least, they take responsibility also for the scooter. You
Okay,
know,
like a general liability policy, that makes sense. Protect yourself. Put that rental agreement up front. Like just treat it seriously. Make it look legit because it is legit. I was going to ask. So most people are finding you through Googling, LA mobility scooter rental, and you're like, hey, pops up there. Um, did you do anything specific with the Google business listing or with Yelp, either posting updates there or soliciting reviews or adding images? Or I like the whole world of local SEO is it's quite fascinating. Like all of the different little tweaks and levers that you can pull.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely fascinated with SEO, and I'm always looking for ways to improve things. But the Google My Business page, I think that's probably the main thing, and I filled out as much as I could. I put up some pictures, some great descriptions, filled out, everything that I could on the profile. And yes, I definitely did solicit some reviews from, my first customers, some friends, family, and I think that's important. I definitely, focused on that, and I think that definitely helped get my business out there. So I think that's very important. Yelp, I wouldn't say that's a big factor for me,
Yeah.
but it's still there, and I still get some requests for there, but I'm not focused that much on it. I would say Google My Business, and just I was able to rank. I want to say hopefully because I did a pretty good website. The current competitors, they're a little bit old school, and they did not invest so much in their online presence. So the websites are a little bit older. I don't think they're as optimized. So I think with me building a pretty nice new modern website, I was able to just outrank them pretty easily.
Yeah, it's a good looking site, and this is kind of echoes what um, Nick Huber has said. Like, well, who do you want to compete with? Do you want to compete against the, brick and mortar, blue collar service based businesses that are operating with websites that look like they're 20 years old, or do you want to compete against Silicon Valley engineers who are, using AI to produce this stuff? Like, I'm going to go for the lower competition business model every time. And same thing, Johnny Robinson was doing the window washing business in college and had built it to hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. It's like super go getter. And what he mentioned was, once you have that online presence nailed down, so much of the branding happens online. It's your website, it's your reviews, it's your photos, that as long as you show up and provide a good service, people are already impressed with you. Like they felt that they were making a savvy decision because they went with a company that looked good, on their digital presence, and that's kind of the box that you're checking here. So that
Yep.
makes a lot of sense. So you have like different tabs, about your scooters. You have the Explore LA tab, just some content that says, it's about the scooters, but it's also like about LA, like trying to cross pollinate, like this is what we are, this is where we do it, like trying to just say, here it is. And then the number that's on the site, is this Google Voice? Is this just ring your personal cell? Like what happens if somebody calls this number?
Yeah, that number goes through. I have I think it's Talk Route, so it's like a phone number service, and it's an app, and it goes basically directly to my phone, and I also it also has a voicemail box, and I think the voicemail also pops up into the email. So basically, there's like a transcript. So I use that app for the phone number.
Okay.
Yeah, and it goes straight to my phone.
Are there any upsell opportunities for somebody coming into town who needs this thing? Like when you go to rent a car, they're like, "Do you want the collision and damage waiver? Like, do you want a car seat? Do you want like the other things that come with it? Do you want the toll tracker? Like, just trying to increase that customer value as somebody comes through. Just trying to think of other ways to increase the average ticket here.
I try to keep it simple, and I try to not get into things that don't necessarily make a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? You can definitely do maybe small upgrades. I don't know, like a charger, right? You can let them charge their phone, or you can add like a canopy or something like that, things like that. But those would be maybe 10, $15, $20. And I think it's a lot more work for you, right, to manage those things and to offer those things. And some people
Okay.
want them and some people don't. So I keep it simple. It's kind of like an 80-20 rule. I
Yeah.
just rent them the scooter, and I get the most money for that. And I keep it very simple for me. I don't have to worry about accessories or any kind of additional add-ons, because I don't think it would add that much value, that much money to the rental. I don't think there's really anything you can offer with a mobility scooter that would make it much more lucrative.
I was trying to check the Google reviews for it, but it's defaulting to Seattle area for me. Oh, there's a few people. This guy in Tacoma's got 43 reviews for the mobility equipment supplier. Yeah. Just checking out the local competition here. Oh, this guy's only
Yeah,
3.9 stars. Like, here we go. There's opportunity to come
it's
in and provide 5-star service. On the
exactly. It's not
on the
hard.
review front, we've heard that prioritizing the Google reviews over the Yelp reviews, because Yelp, unless that customer is a habitual Yelp reviewer, is probably not going to get shown. It's like, oh, yes, it's my first review and it's 5 stars. Like, to try to game our system, but Google will take almost all comers. It sounds like. Is there a process in place after that rental is complete and after the customer is back home? It's like a follow up email to say, hey, hopefully it was a positive experience. If you wouldn't mind dropping in a review. Curious if there's a process around that.
Yeah, in the beginning, if I had a good interaction, if I made a connection with the customer, I may follow up with an email after. I'm like, hey, thank you so much. Usually, I'm very nice. It's all about customer service, and I may ask them, hey, if you wanna help out or something like that, you can leave a review here on Google or Yelp, and that's how I did it. But I don't do that anymore. I think I have enough at this point, where I don't really follow up or anything like that. But I did a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah, I've got your. I was able to get away from the Seattle location tagging here, and yeah, 25-star reviews here on Google. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's fewer quantity than the competition, but greater quality, and so yeah, it shows up as the top result. So that's great.
Yeah.
Uh,
No,
I was going to
exactly.
ask if there's a strategic partnership plan with the hotels. Like if people don't book this in advance, like could you leave your card with the front desk and say, hey, if any of your guests ever need this service, like I'm here to help. It's there like because we talk about the strategy of going towards those lead fountains who are going to be the steady stream of customers over and over again versus like trying to find one-off customers on the internet.
There's a lot of opportunity to reach out and to solicit business, and hotels is big. I thought about it. Again, I'm not focused on, growing and expanding the business that much. I kind of like where it is now, but there's definitely so much opportunity for going out to hotels, approaching hotels, letting them know, hey, if you have a guest that is looking for a scooter, give us a call. Here's a little flyer, or maybe even put a little flyer on on the front desk for people to see, or anything like that. There's definitely a lot of opportunity. I did not really get into that because, like I said, I am pretty okay with how much business I have now. But if I do want to expand, which at some point I might, if I want to take it to the next level, you can definitely do that. You can get in touch with all these things. Hotels is great, but there's a lot of other customers. It's not just people traveling. We're in the middle of LA here, and productions, movie productions, they rent scooters, and they probably rent them also for like, props and
Yeah.
different reasons, different customers all the time.
Yeah, that's such a cool. I'm fascinated by things that you can buy relatively inexpensively and still command a high, rental rate on a weekly basis. I think it's really cool. Do you have an estimate of the average hours per week that you're putting into it right now?
It varies. I think the majority of the work is just driving,
Yeah,
delivering and picking up, and it's up and down. You know what I mean? Some weeks are more than others, but I would say I have one delivery or pickup a day, maybe two once in a while, and it'll be maybe a few days. It won't be every day. So, and I would say 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours for the week.
yeah.
Just because I try not to go that far. So I keep it as local as possible. That's the job, that's the request that I like to take. So,
Yeah, so
yeah.
if somebody comes in like, "Hey, we're coming to for Disneyland or something," you're like, "Oh, I'm not going down to Orange County.
Yeah,
You're
I
gonna have to."
don't I don't do that. There's a lot of Disneyland guys down there, rentals, and that's far from me.
Yeah,
And I try to stay away from those 1 day rentals. It's just not worth it for me. So
gotcha.
I try to go at least a 3, 4 day. That's my sweet spot. I like those 4 days to a week because
Yeah,
you can get the most, but they're not taking your scooter for that long of a time. So you get the best amount of ROI there, rental rate there, and
yeah.
yeah. So that's what I try to do.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. What surprised you the most over the last couple of years of running this thing?
To be honest, I don't know. I think that it shouldn't be that stressful. Like I said earlier, I think I'm kind of a stressful person. I think, oh, they're gonna call me, something's wrong, but they don't. People usually don't have issues. They don't call me, and I'm like, they're gonna call me in the middle of the night. And no, like these people don't hang out in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? So I shouldn't worry about that. Nobody's going out in the middle of the night on their scooter. So it's been pretty smooth. I think the most surprising thing is there's no issues, and the customers you get different types of customers. It's not just somebody with a mobility issue that's traveling. It's different types of customers.
I love that. We build up the fear in our heads of like, oh,
Yeah,
all of the worst case scenarios that could happen, and then when you're actually doing it, you're like, oh, okay, another rental down. Why everybody was happy. Like,
yeah.
okay, phew. Along those lines, like, have there been any horror stories, so to speak, or just mistakes, things you would have done differently?
No, I mean, I had maybe a couple of times people calling me saying something's wrong with the battery. It's cutting out, or it's not going uphill very nicely. I think we need a new scooter.
Okay.
And they were very nice because I approached them very, very, very nice
Yeah.
customer service. I'm very patient, very, I don't know, kind with them. And people are not gonna, I think because of that, people are not gonna call screaming or anything or upset. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
something's with the scooter. And I'm like, okay, I'll either bring you a new battery or a new scooter. And when, later that day or the next day, I did a couple of times. I just swapped out the scooter for them, and that's it. I mean, and they're happy, they're fine, never complained, and that's the biggest thing that ever happened.
Yeah, that's helpful to hear. It's like, okay, it's not it's not as scary as we maybe make it out
No.
to be in our heads. But what's next for you? So you got the scooter business, you got the e-com business, you got the struggling entrepreneur YouTube channel. What's I mean, where do you want to take this thing?
Well, it's a good business, and at some point I might expand. I might focus on it, but to be honest with you, I'm thinking of other equipment that I can get into, things that are bigger ticket, that are more you can make more money out of, and that are maybe bigger, that are more interesting and more higher ticket. So
Yeah.
I am right now always trying to find new ideas, and I'm actually working on some other stuff with a friend of mine. We're trying to get into another equipment rental business actually.
Oh, very
So
good.
we're
Is the
playing
site
with that.
live already? We can plug it for you, or you want to keep it stealth mode?
We're doing generators. So those portable, towable types of generators and we're still trying to figure out who the customer is, but it could be either, again, movie productions or parties, right, or events
Yeah.
where they need a generator somewhere out in where there's no power and they need to power some equipment or whatever they're doing. And it's LA Generator Rentals,
Okay.
just like
Nice.
just like LA Mobility, yeah. We keep it simple, and that's what we're working on right now. And we're just like the other business, we're trying to see where the demand is. And we have a few generators. We don't have all of them that are advertised, so we're starting with a few, and we're kind of going from there. And we've already had some rentals going, so um,
Yeah. I love this idea of just
yeah,
putting something out there, seeing what kind of reaction you get, seeing if people actually want the thing, and then
yeah.
going out and buying the inventory for it. I think it's a really creative approach. So again, LA Mobility Scooter Rentals.com. You can check Lenny out at The Struggling Entrepreneur. We'll link up his YouTube channel as well. Thanks for stopping by. Let's wrap this thing up with your number one tip for Side Hustle Nation.
Sure. So I always listen to these number one tips that everybody gives, and it's always hard to come up with something, but I'll keep it simple. Just like we talked about, you don't have to invest money up front. You don't have to buy a bunch of equipment or whatever it is you're doing, whatever business you're trying. Uh, Start with a minimum viable product, throw up a website, but make sure it's good, invest in that, and then see if you get demand. And you can do that for any business. I think that's very important. And I would say that's my number one thing, and see what works.
Yeah, I think that's probably the big idea to take away from this is how can you validate demand really affordably. It costs almost nothing to put up a website these days, and as long as you do it right, the branding, positioning, the just I filled in the blanks on the Google or the GoDaddy website builder, and all of a sudden like, that was enough because there was so little competition doing that same thing. So yeah, fascinating. I'm smiling
Yeah.
and taking notes along the way. It's like, shoot, what else? What other website could I spin up around the same idea?
Yeah.
And if you're thinking the same thing, I've got my list of 25 other unconventional rental ideas. Maybe something in there will strike your fancy. I don't know if industrial equipment is on there. It might be. But these are other products that people are renting out for a profit, and that is your listener only bonus for this week. You can download that for free at the show notes for this episode at sidehustlenation.com/Lenny, or just follow the show notes link in the episode description. Big thanks to Lenny for sharing his insight. Thanks to Notion and eBay for Business for sponsoring this week. You can hit up sidehustlenation.com/deals for all the latest offers from our sponsors in one place. And thank you for supporting the advertisers that support the show. It really does help. That is it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're finding value in the show, make sure to text a friend. Hey, we should totally start a business like this. Until next time, let's go out there and make something happen. And I'll catch you in the next edition of The Side Hustle Show. Hustle on.